Security program on spreadsheets, new regulations piling up, and audit dread? It's time for Vanta. Vanta automates security and compliance, brings evidence into one place, and cuts audit prep by 82%. Less manual work, clearer visibility, faster deals, zero chaos. Call it compliance or call it compliance. Get it? Join the 15,000 companies using Vanta to prove trust. Go to vanta.com/calm.
Welcome to the Next Level podcast. This show is for leaders, builders, and bold thinkers who know they're meant for more and are finally ready to stop waiting and start moving. The Next Level Lab is where confidence meets clarity, where identity turns into action, and where bold decisions create real momentum. Here we'll talk about leadership, growth, energy, mindset, and what it actually takes to build a life and a business that feel aligned, powerful, and totally yours. You'll hear real conversations, real stories, real strategies. No fluff, no playing small, and no waiting until you feel ready. This podcast is your permission to lead louder, move faster, and own your next level. I'm your host, Callie Wiley. Let's freaking go. Welcome back to another episode of the Next Level Lab podcast. We are trying something new today. Mostly because I'm really frustrated with my cameras, and you know this has been a thing. So we're going to try a different camera type. We're going to see how this works. We're going to see if this works a little bit better, and we're going to go from there. But today's episode is all about the power of flexibility, the power of pivoting, the power of being less structured to being a strong type A. And I want to talk about this because I am a recovering strong type A person and like crazy type A personality. And growing up, I literally had a plan for everything. I had a plan for my whole life. I had a plan for what I was going to do. I had a plan for how things were going to work out. And plans are great until things happen. And until something happens and you realize that you can't go on, right? You realize the plan's not happening. And this happens all the time. And we teach people that you have to create a plan long term. You have to have a 10-year plan. You got to have a 25-year plan, a 50-year plan. But no one talks about how in this plan, you're also going to have 500 things that are going to go wrong. No one talks about it. And I want to bring light to that because I had plans and then everything went crazy, right? Everything went crazy. And my plan slowly turned into chaos and nothing was really going the way I anticipated it to. Life happens. You lose jobs. People die. You guys, my parents died and it shifted everything for me. This life that I had, that I thought I had this plan on how I was going to do things, was no longer available to me and I couldn't do it. I had a morning routine that I was like, I'm set up for success with this. I wake up at 4 a.m. I go to CrossFit at 5. I leave the house at 6:30. I eat paleo. I've got this plan. And then you guys, when my parents died, I couldn't even get out of bed. And going on a walk felt like an achievement. And I felt like a failure every fucking day because every day that I couldn't get out of bed and I didn't go to my workout, I was failing. And when we set ourselves up for these really strict plans, you're setting yourself up to constantly fail. So why are we so stuck in this world that we have to have these plans? So here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. I want you to start thinking about the detours. Because yesterday I was in Montana and I traveled with my friend Kelly, who's been on this podcast before, but I traveled with Kelly and she had some life things come up. And if you ever travel, I need you to understand you got to be a little bit more flexible because things are going to happen when you travel and things are going to change. Your plans are going to change and you're not going to have a plan ever again. I've had plans get diverted. I've had plans land in places we're not supposed to land. I've had flights get canceled. I've had flights get delayed. I've missed connections. I've had to do all these things when I'm traveling. And so yesterday we were presented with this situation and we ended up driving home. We ended up driving back from Bozeman, Montana, which is long. It's a long 12, 13-hour drive. And part of us could have been really upset. We could have been really upset that this is what's happening, right? We aren't flying home now. We're driving. But the power of the detour was beautiful. I've never been to Montana before this trip. I've also never been to Idaho. I'd never been to Big Sky, never been to Yellowstone. And the detour we got to take took us through Yellowstone, took us through Big Sky. It took us through Idaho. I got to see parts of the country I never would have seen. And the detour was so much more beautiful than I ever realized could have happened, right? We leaned into how can we make this the most incredible detour with beautiful opportunities. We got to ride in a car together for 13 hours. Had we flown, we weren't sitting together, so we wouldn't have had this opportunity to sit in a car together for 13 hours and talk about life and talk about challenges and talk about dreams. You guys, having conversations when you're not stuck is beautiful. And it ended up being one of the most rewarding detours ever. And I still believe in power of manifestation. I'm not saying erase all your plans, have no goals, just wing it all. I'm not saying that at all. That's not at all the plan. What I'm saying is be more flexible with how you get there. I have a vision board. And on my vision board, I have a ton of different things that are really important to me that I achieve. But how I get there can be so flexible. You guys, the last job I was at, I thought I'd be there forever. I really thought I would be there forever. I thought it was my forever job. I thought I would be working there forever. I thought that I would be doing this forever. And when my parents died, my capacity was shot. My capacity was not, I didn't even have capacity left. I had no capacity left to share. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it at the level that I needed to do it anymore. And I didn't have a plan for what this was going to look like. I didn't have a plan for how I was going to leave this opportunity. But when I did, doors opened for me that I never even realized would have availability to do. I've had something on my vision board for almost a decade. And it's getting announced in April, but I've had something on my vision board for almost a decade. And I never knew how I was going to achieve it because there's some pretty big obstacles in it that I just didn't know how we would ever get across the finish line. But I kept that image up. But how I got there, I left very hyper flexible. I left it very hyper flexible because I wanted to leave space for how can I get there? What can I do to achieve this? What if it looks really different? And then I met the right people. And the right people are helping me bring this to life. And that's so empowering, right? I didn't know how I was going to get there. But I let it happen. And I had these ideas of things I wanted to achieve, but I didn't get so stuck in how I was going to get there. I have a morning routine. I have goals. I have plans. But how I get there, I'm much more flexible. Travel, I'm much more flexible. You all, I used to be like booked on a plane 8 months in advance. Y'all, you're lucky if I'm booked 2 weeks in advance. You're lucky if I'm booked the week before if I know where I'm staying. Because I stopped being so stuck in this has to be the plan. This is what we have to do. I have to know the itinerary. Because when you get stuck in an itinerary of your life, what are you missing out on? What if the detour is way more beautiful? What if your plane getting diverted opens up an opportunity to meet someone you would have never met? What if your flight getting canceled puts you in a space with someone you never would have met? And now that person opened doors for you. What if losing the job made you realize that you had so many other goals and so many things that you didn't have capacity for? Now you have the capacity. Now you have the capacity to chase those things. What if moving, right? We get unexpectedly move. What if that puts you around the most incredible humans that you never even knew, but now that you're in a new community, that door is opened. You have to start leaning in to the power of what's really beautiful. I want you to think of a time, maybe it's a current time, that you're sitting in, that you got detoured. You lost the job. You had to move. The relationship changed. Life got really challenging. You had to overcome some things. And I want you to think of all the beautiful things that came from that. What are the things that you got to experience because of that? The travel debacle. What are the really incredible things you got to experience because of that? And I want you to think of some things right now that you're just so stuck on the plan has to go according to plan. And I want to encourage you to get more flexible. I want you to get more open to pivoting, get more flexible with things failing and canceling and diverting and detouring. Because I promise you that the detour is going to be more beautiful. If you let the detour open your eyes, the detour is going to be more incredible. So think about that. Think about what's really beautiful happening in your life on your detours. Lean into the detours. Let the detours happen. Look forward to the detours, right? Look forward to these opportunities of what can be different, what can come of something. How can this really help me? And let this dictate your life differently. Stop being so attached to this 10-year plan. We see this financially too. Everyone wants us to have this financial plan, and I could do a whole episode of why I don't believe in it. But have a goal. Be flexible with how you get there. What's your end goal? I'm going to do or achieve this thing. Have that thing, but be super hyper flexible in how you get there. Stop setting yourself up for daily failure. And I know so many of you sit in the space that when you don't achieve something according to plan, we think that we're failing. And I love a good failure. But don't beat yourself up because it didn't go according to plan, because the plan never was even achievable, right? So much is out of our control. I could have never controlled my parents dying. I could have never controlled losing Christina. I could have never controlled the amount of grief that I would go through. And had I just sat on these things and thought, well, I just have to get back to this plan, so much would have been closed for me. I would have never met people that I met. I would have never experienced things that I got to experience. So go enjoy the detour today and let me know what that detour looks like. Let me know how you're on your journey and how you're embracing it and how you're leaning in. And I love when people reach out to me because it helps me realize that what I'm doing even matters. So please reach out to me. Let me know if you're on a detour, or if you've leaned into being more type B, if you're a strong type A, and how you're working through that. But it's also really helpful if you like, subscribe, save, do all the things, share across your social media platforms, tag me so I can reshare it. Helps me a ton. And otherwise, have an incredible day. I will see you next week. Go enjoy the detours this week.